Hey, welcome back to 755 is Real. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer at The Athletic, with my co-host, former Braves reliever Eric O'Flaherty. What's happening, man?
What's up, Dave?
A whole lot with the Braves, man. They just keep making history, doing unprecedented stuff. This season has just gotten better and better for them. When you thought early on, and I was talking to Travis Darno about this yesterday, when they lost Max Fried and Kyle Wright, within like 3 days of each other, they went on the IL. They thought, and he admitted it, because we didn't think we could do this. They hoped that they would just, maintain first place. Yeah, just fight like hell, maintain first place, and then get those guys back, and then then we're in business. Instead, they've played like the best baseball they've played in years.
Without baseball anybody's played in years.
Without last year's Cy Young runner-up and last year's only 20-game winner in the majors. He won 21, Kyle did. They've done it without those two. And what they're doing offensively right now, I've never seen anything like it. Not just not covered. I haven't seen anything like this.
I mean, you can listen on the broadcast. They're running out of things to say too. There's no explanation for it. There's no way to even come up with a reason why an offense could be this hot. Like when Ozzie and Acuña went back to back to start the game, I was just like, This is stupid. This is a joke. It's not real. It doesn't happen.
The first inning thing, when Brian Snitker goes, it's crazy. I don't even know what to say about it. When Snick goes, doesn't even try to dismiss it or play it down and just says it's crazy. Stupid. That's when it's really out there. Yeah. And I think it's a direct correlation between what they're doing in the first inning, obviously, and what they're doing in games, because they're jumping out to these leads, and it just stokes everything, because it allows these pitchers, especially these young guys, it allows them to relax and just pitch and not try to worry about being perfect, because they know if they give up a run or two, or if the Braves don't score in the first inning and the other team does score a run or two, the guy doesn't have – they don't stress, because they know if they can keep it there, Braves are going to probably win.
Yeah. I mean, it takes pressure off of everybody. Yeah. And you wind up, it's the thing that happens too, is you get into teams' bullpens early game one, start beating them up, it plays out for the whole series. And when you start getting up 4, 5, 6, 7 runs, you're not facing a good reliever when they pull them out of the pen.
Yeah.
You're getting to face their worst reliever, their long guy.
And that's an important thing to note, too, is they're doing this against good pitchers and good teams.
Yeah.
They just beat up the Marlins' two best pitchers. They beat up the rookie, your Perez, the all-star, came in.
He was on 21 scoreless.
21 scoreless streak. But not only that, he had like an 0-point-something ERA. I just voted for him for Rookie of the Month over Corbin Carroll.
Yeah.
I mean, he was on fire. And they destroyed him. He got one out and gave up, 6 consecutive hits in the first inning. Homers and doubles too.
I thought it was so smart Schumacher pulled him, because it's just like that can mess up his whole season. And that game's it's pretty much a wash at that point, especially with the Braves offense. Just a lot of teams would leave him in and let him take his whooping.
Yeah.
But he might have given up 10 or 11, and then your numbers don't look the same. So that game's just a wash. Get him out of there and be done with it.
His ERA went up over a run in that game.
Yeah.
And they did
1 inning.
And before that, they swept the Twins like they were nothing. They won a series against the Reds, who were on fire, the hottest team in baseball at the time, beat up one of their aces. I mean, they're doing this against good teams. Everybody used to try to, the glass half empty type crowd would always be like, when the Braves put together a good homestand, but they're beating up on bad teams. This year they have the best record in the majors against winning teams.
Yeah, and even if they hit like this against a AAA team, I'd be impressed. They have 6 home runs the other day.
6 homers, and it was the second time this year they've done that. They've done it twice against the Marlins. They've had over 5 against them, 5 or more.
There's not really a way to. There's nothing to compare it to that I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, this is like juiced ball or juiced human era numbers that they're putting up, but they're not doing it with. Other people aren't doing comparable things.
Yeah, I was trying to think of that. I was like, what would make this make sense? It's like steroids. They're not doing that.
No.
Juice ball. I don't know. I don't see.
They got a really bunch of good hitters that are all hitting at the same time, but you just never see that happen. And it's almost like, okay, when 4 or 5 of them got going, it almost like dragged the rest of them too, because you at the most you've had recently struggling is like one or two guys in the lineup, and that's not a big slump. It's like Arcia just went through a stretch where he had a 2 for 25 or whatever, that type of thing, and then he hits a home run the other day. So it's like, it's crazy. And the only thing you hope for their sake is, because they're not going to be able to sustain this the rest of the season. If you did that, you'd destroy all major league records. If you did that, they just hit 61 homers in June. They beat the previous National League record for any month by 4 home runs. Any month, and that's taken into account the steroid era, the juice ball era, all that. They beat it. But you hope for their sake that they just can maintain the health of the key guys. Acuña, God forbid Acuña goes down. You just need Acuña. You got to keep him healthy because he's the most important guy in this offense. Clearly. What he does, what he's done in so many games, the way he started games. If it's not a home run or a double, it's a single, and he's still second base. So he's like immediately in scoring position anyway. I mean, the guy's on-base percentage in the first inning is ridiculous. Way over 500.
If any other time that he came up, I think in the last 20 years, it'd be a pretty, maybe not when Mike Trout was prime, but it'd be a pretty easy discussion of who the most talented player in baseball is. But right now there happens to be Ohtani too.
Yeah. Right. Ohtani overall, you can't argue with that because he's pitching. But offensively, with everything Acuña does, I'm going Acuña because the stolen bases, the average, hitting 330 something at this point of the season with power and leading the league in OPS and steals.
He's going to steal 70 bags.
Oh my God. We'll get to a little bit of this, but right now, first things first, it seemed appropriate that yesterday the Braves do something they have never done in their long and storied franchise history. Not even when they won 14 consecutive division titles. They never had 8 All-Stars. They had 7 a couple times. They've never had 8, not one time. The last team to do that in the majors was the Rangers in 2012 had 8. I think the last National League team was like the Cubs in like 15 years ago. So, first time they've had 8. Also, the first time they've had 6 position players ever make the team. If you think about that, that's crazy. I mean, 6 of your position players are in the All-Star team.
I mean, that's 2/3 of your lineup.
And the entire infield. They've never had that before either. They've had 3 before, 3 infielders. They've never had all 4 infielders on the All-Star team. And that's not even counting the catcher who's also on
it. Stupid. I mean, it's just a joke.
And the thing is, usually in a case of those, it's a case of fans being like excited after a team won the World Series, or you've got a particularly a group of fans that's particularly adept at
just huge voters
at voting online.
They just show up.
They've got it nailed. They've got like systems where they vote as maximum. In this case, you could only argue that there's only a couple of these Braves that you could even argue somebody else belonged on the team, and it's not a strong argument. It's like you could argue that Ozzie Albies, there's like one guy over Ozzie Albies, but it's not like a big deal. It's not like a big slight or a joke that he's on it. Every one of these guys is deserving.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of crazy. You got yesterday, the reserves were named. You got Matt Olson, leads the league in homers and RBIs. You got Ozzie Albies. It's his 3rd All-Star game already, by the way. And last year, he was hurt, so he wasn't going to make it last year and the year and then the shortened season. So he's basically made it every year. It's a full season he's had. Austin Riley. You could argue that somebody else could have, squeezed him out there. But again, it's not a strong argument.
Are the reserves a player vote or does the manager pick them? It's player vote.
It's mostly player vote. Yeah. And starting pitchers, Spencer Strider and Bryce Elder make it. Bryce Elder's got the second best. Yeah, his numbers are second lowest ERA in the league.
Him and Arcia were the 2 guys I thought might get screwed.
And Arcia was voted by the fans. So, you could argue somebody else could have belonged there too, but that was a fan vote. So, and then Strider, of course, leads the majors in strikeouts. He's doing his historic thing again. He's on pace for about 300 strikeouts. And the Braves this is a great stat. The Braves are 15-2 in Strider starts this year. How about that?
So, Yeah, because he had a few bad ones, but they might not even lost those games because they scored so
They
many
scored
runs.
so many runs. Yeah. He had the terrible one, Matt. Remember against Cincinnati when he came out and pulled him and talked to him about walks and everything.
Yeah.
And he gave up like 6 runs or whatever. They won that game. If I'm not
I mean,
mistaken, I'd have to go back and look at it. I think they won that game, though.
this would be a year to win 20 games, with this offense.
Yeah, and he could do it. So they were added to the guys that were already voted to start. Ronald Acuña was the leading vote getter in the majors over Shohei. He was the automatic starter after that second round of voting in right field. I think they're actually going to put him in left and play Betts in right is what I've seen. I don't know if that means anything. I don't know why they would do that, but unless it's because Betts just feels more comfortable out there and asked his manager. I don't know why they would do that, but because Acuña hasn't played in the left field this year and been a while since he's played any out there. Orlando Arcia voted and Sean Murphy. So those are the ones that they joined. So that gives them eight all-stars, 6 position players, and 2 starting. Here's another thing, man. This one I had to look up a few times to make sure I was seeing it right. When do you think is the last time the Braves had 2 starting pitchers on the all-star team? Starting pitchers. 2000. Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux.
Yeah, I couldn't name any era I played.
So all those years, though, like in the 2000s and everything, Smoltz did it a couple of times with one other starter, but Smoltz was a closer when he did it. They never had 2 starters. I thought, I seem to remember Jair Jurgens and Tommy
That's what
Hansen.
popped into my head. I thought those 2 went.
But Hansen didn't go. I thought he did. He deserved to go. Now, I remember his numbers, he deserved to go, but he didn't.
I think the year JJ was an all-star, Tommy came up a little late.
Yeah.
Anytime you come up late, it's tough to make it.
But he had great numbers that year, I remember, and that was so yeah, it had not happened. So there's something that's not happened in a long, long time. So Sunday they go out, and it's kind of tough sometimes to finish off that perfect homestand or that perfect sweep against a good team. Yeah. But they did it again. And the Marlins, the poor Marlins, man. I say poor because they've gotten destroyed by the Braves this year. They're 1-8 against the Braves, and they're like 20 games over 500 against everybody else, close to it. I mean, they cannot beat the Braves, and the Braves thrash them usually. But so Arcia, Albies, and Travis d'Arnaud all hit home runs in the 6-3 win on Sunday, completed a 6-game homestand sweep of the Twins and Marlins. Extends the Braves' winning streak to 8 games. They've won 23 out of 26 games, man. They improved to a major's best 56-27, and that's 2 more wins than they've ever had in franchise history at the 83 game mark.
They picked up 15 games on the Mets in a month?
In 1 month. 1 month.
That is the most deflating thing that could possibly happen. I mean, if you lose 5 games in a month, you're like, shit, this thing's getting out of hand. But 15?
Yeah, the Mets were down 3.5 before the month and down 18 when the month
15?
ended.
Oh, my God.
And what was even more demoralizing for the Mets is the Marlins and the Phillies played great in June, too, so they lost ground on everybody. And they sunk down closer to the Nationals.
Yeah, what was that press conference about that Cohen held that day? Was he basically saying they're clean it up or we're going to
Well, he didn't threaten anything. Actually, he went the other way and said the worst thing you could do is kind of knee-jerk reaction, fire people and everything. So he gave him the dreaded vote of confidence to his GM and his manager.
Well, how about that, though? I mean, that's kind of cool after Showalter's getting all that praise last year. How many times that's kind of cool for an owner. I don't know how it plays out, but
they kept asking him.
It's just like fire everybody.
They asked him, "Are you going to fire? Are you going to fire him?" He said, "Absolutely not." So for the rest of the year. And he also talked about hiring a president, which they're still looking to do. And a lot of the questions are about what that would entail, what the president would do, blah, blah, blah. So they're looking for that. But it was not anything that he didn't like unleash. He just said, we got to play better and all that stuff. It's disappointing, but no, he's not going to scapegoat either the manager or the general manager. And I don't know if it'd even be a scapegoat if you fired Buck. I mean, to me, Buck hasn't done a great job this year, but the players have sucked. I mean, their players are not living up to their contracts. So many of them.
Yeah, and I don't know what a manager can really.
Right.
I mean, you can only pull so many strings.
They've got one all-star dude, and the commissioner's office had to get hit Pete Alonso on it. He didn't even get voted by the players, I don't think. He's their only all-star.
What do you mean the commissioner had to do it?
They have to have one from each team.
Right. Okay.
So I don't think he got voted by the players. I'd have to look, but I don't think he did. Tatis got left off by the players. How about that with the year he's having?
Well,
kind of made a statement there, didn't it?
Yeah. That's one thing, and it's kind of a lot of it. There's certain guys that are still in the game that have done it, like Nelson Cruz. You talk to guys about Nelson Cruz. There's a lot of guys still mad at him for what he did.
Yeah.
And
right.
That'll never drop it or never respect a steroid guy. And that's one thing I think just in baseball, man. I mean, it's so hard to get through a season.
Yeah.
Everybody's hurting. And if you've got some help, it's hard to get anybody's respect after that.
And especially if you're a DH.
Yeah.
You're not even going out there and grinding like the rest of the guys all day.
Yeah. Or even Tatis, you got $300 million coming your way, and you gotta, you just gotta
right.
be a man. And if
right.
you suck, you suck. If you're hurt, you got to heal naturally. He made a mistake, but the players will probably never forget that.
Yeah. I mean, and if he wasn't what he is, I mean, let's face it, he's a really flamboyant player, and that's fine. Okay. But in this situation, when you're flamboyant and then you do the steroids and you lie about it and you lie about the motorcycle wrecks and you get that contract, all that, the players aren't just going to say, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, they're gonna make a mistake. It's like, yeah, you're showing off when you're cheating.
Right.
It's like
we're not going to then vote for you to make the All-Star team over this guy we really respect and what he's done this year.
Yeah.
So it's going to at least linger for that long, if not another year. So
I think if you get popped, I don't think anybody ever drops it. I mean, at least the culture that I was brought up in is
right.
If you did that, man, nobody's ever going to forget.
Well, it was like scab players too. For a long time,
it's exact same concept.
There were a couple of generations of players before that got past that. I mean, I remember Terry Pendleton would used to tell me, when a certain scab player would be on
they'd yell it out.
MLB Network.
Yep.
On one of the shows that they have, Terry Pendleton would tell me, he'd be talking to me about something. He'd look up and go, "I can't believe they got that scab on it," And he never forgot it.
I had the coolest coach at one of the lower levels of the minors. I won't name him, but he had been a scab, and he was the coolest coach. And I remember talking to some older guys, my first major league spring training. They're like, you got who's your pitching coach? Blah, blah, asking about it. And I was like, oh, this guy, I love him. He's awesome. And they were like, he's fucking scab.
Uh-huh.
And that was it. Didn't care how good of a dude he was, who he was now, anything like that. He'd cross that line and they would never forget it. And he probably did it 25 years ago.
Yeah.
When he was just probably not going to make the major leagues or barely even sniff them. His career was about over and just wanted to taste it. And nope. You cross that line, you're done forever as far as the players are concerned. They wouldn't even want you in the clubhouse. Yeah.
And they didn't get to sit in on the union meetings.
Nope.
Yeah. I mean, people don't understand because it's a different atmosphere now. And the union thing there hasn't been a lot of butting heads. There was a little bit on the last negotiation, but nothing like in the past, the strike years.
Right.
People don't understand how strong those reactions were to people who chose to walk across the line.
They wouldn't even say hi to you.
Because they put your livelihoods in jeopardy.
Yep. Guys wouldn't even look at you.
MLB was threatening to play a season with scab players, replacement players, until they realized, okay, this product sucks. We can't do this.
Yep.
And they basically, the judge helped them before they could cave, but they decided they weren't going to do it. But a couple of the players you're talking about like that, I know a specific one who was 26 years old in the minors, didn't know if he's ever going to get a chance. This was his chance to play, and he's trying to feed his kids and all that. And he chose to walk across the line to play replacement ball. Turns out he had a hell of a career after that as a major leaguer. But there were some.
But it was probably not getting invited out to beers very often.
Fortunately for him, he had a great personality and he did a lot of good shit for his team. But there were older players like a Terry Pendleton, some of the coaches who were around who would not forget that.
Yep.
So, but anyway, the Braves have sold out, and this goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about. They've sold out 30 home games already. And we're not at the All-Star break yet. That's the fastest they've ever sold out 30 home games in the new ballpark. And think about that. The first year is like a given. You're going to have huge attendance at a new ballpark. They sold out faster than they did that year in 2017. They sold out 30 games faster than they did coming off the World Series, which is crazy. So faster than they did a year ago after they'd won the World Series in 2021. Because of the type team this is. They're playing great, and they're really exciting.
I mean, homers, I mean, I need to come out there and go to a game at the park and see that. I want to feel the vibe because it seems like just a party, just from watching on TV. And then you got a team that's winning the way they are. I think it might be different if they just had, 4 stud pitchers that were
right
dealing and you're winning games like 3-1 with a clutch
like in the
hit or
90s.
something. But when you show up and it's a packed house in the first inning, Acuña leads off with a homer. It's like, it's just a party vibe. It seems like.
Yeah, I mean,
blast music now too, right? Like walk-up songs and all that. Oh yeah,
loud. Yeah, it's one of the louder parts. Acuña walks up. He's got his distinct Latin hip hop song going. I mean, it is loud, and it's like ringing a bell to anybody that's still walking around the concourses.
Like, sit down.
Anybody that just got, all right, we're starting. Acuña's stepping up, and you better be there for that first pitch because if it's a good one, he's hacking.
Yeah.
It is. It changes the whole dynamic. There is nothing leisurely about strolling in, getting there late in the first inning or second inning. It's like if you are in the know, you better be sitting down when the Braves bat in the bottom of the first.
And that amps your team up too. Yeah, I mean, I remember when we went and played San Francisco in the playoffs in 2010. The vibe in that stadium, I mean, they were blasting music. Yeah. It was so loud. Every time they got a hit, they cranked it up max volume, and it just the whole game felt like a party.
It was great.
Lincecum struck out like 15 or something. But we came back home and we were trying to tell, I think it was Scott Cunningham, the music guy. We're like, dude, you got to do what they were doing and crank it up. And I think he only knew like one techno song. So he played that Sandstorm song just every inning for a couple of days. And we're like, oh, I don't think that's it.
Yeah, they had what's his name close and jump around and all that. That was just that was a fun
team. But the Braves kind of have
Brian Wilson,
like that same feel to them now, where they make it loud in a hurry.
Yeah, it's and it's the players doing it. It's the music and all that helps, but the players are they're having so much fun out there. This is a team that wears its emotions on its sleeve. It's not the button-down Braves of the past, man.
It was cool here in Charlie Talk yesterday.
Yeah.
It was cool here in Charlie Talk yesterday. His interview about what a bunch of great dudes it is too. Yeah. Did you see that?
Yeah, I was in the room, man.
Yeah.
I might have asked him the question.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
He talks
about good dudes.
Yeah, he said it's like, and he said I don't think they know how good they are.
Right.
It was great. It was typical Charlie. It was a great interview. Leading all-star vote getter in the majors is appropriately Acuña because he's doing things that no one's ever done.
Yep.
He needs 1 steal to go to the all-star break with 20 homers, 40 stolen bases, and 50 ribbies. Obviously, nobody's ever done that. And he'll get it. He just got 2 stolen bases yesterday to give him 39. Nobody's ever even had 30 or more homers and 60 or more steals in the same season. Dude, he could legitimately do that by September.
God dang. Yeah.
The way he's hitting home runs now and the way he's stealing bases now.
And I still don't think he gets the credit he deserves outside of Atlanta. Because I talk to people locally, and everybody out here on the West Coast is just blown away by Ohtani. And I'll be like, hey, Acuña hits balls that far.
I think you're in a market. It's you're in Washington, though.
Yeah.
You got Rodriguez there, and then you got Ohtani. They always see Ohtani in Seattle and West Coast. So they're kind of isolated from the East Coast and especially from the National League.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you turn in MLB Network or ESPN now, I think Acuña gets talked about as much as anybody except maybe Ohtani. I mean, I think they do. Just the way he plays, he's almost like forced them to talk about him. Everybody acknowledges.
He's given them no choice. I just mean just as far as like if there's a conversation of talent and skill and who kind of blows you away, I know he gets a lot of attention, but I still don't think, unless you watch him, kind of like Mike Trout used to be, unless you watch him on a daily basis, you understand, even the jumping catches he's been making in the outfield.
Yeah. Yeah. He makes that nice running catch in the gap.
I know he's getting credit, but I don't think he's getting enough for just how freakishly talented he is.
And last year hurt in that regard too, because he had such a down year last year. People are wondering, okay, is he going to be the same after the knee? So it's kind of like he kind of slipped, because then when you saw all the preseason things this year, top 10 rankings at positions, top 20 overall, he wasn't up high in any of those. Now, if you did them now, he'd be top 3 in everything.
Yep.
As far as overall players.
I'm in a text message group with a bunch of Mariners fans that are always just gaggling over Ohtani, and I'll send them something Acuña does. Like when he threw that 104-mile-an-hour throw with one step.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I think if this guy got off the mound, he could do the same shit.
Well, last year, and he's left the Mariners young phenom kind of in his wake right now. I mean,
that's who they want to compare him to. I'm like, I don't think so.
It ain't comparable right now.
I think he's great, but I don't think Julio's in that realm.
Right now, he's done nothing to compare with what Acuña's doing statistically this year. So Acuña has 21 homers and 39 stolen bases in 83 team games. He's played every game. That's the other thing. He's playing basically every inning. He's come out like a couple of times for a few innings in blowouts. That's it. And they had to basically force him to do that. He's got 21 homers, 39 stolen bases. He's on pace for 41 homers and 76 stolen bases. Forget the 40-40 club. I mean,
I want 50-50.
This dude's 40-75 club he's on pace for.
I'd like to see him just go on a home run tear. You know, maybe cost him a few bags, but I'd love to see him chase 50-50 late in the season.
I really want to see him get 40, man. I want him to at least get the
40-40, yeah.
Get the 40-40, and it'll stand out so much because he'll be the only one on there with like more than
70 bags.
No, I don't think anybody else on there had 50 stolen bases.
No.
It was all in the 40s. He's hitting 336. I mean, 21 homers, 54 ribbies, a major's leading 76 runs, 415 OBP. It's cut down the chase rate. I wrote about this the other day. His strikeout rate and his chase rate are way down, like some few other rates too. Because their strikeouts, by the way, what made their majors leading home run total even more impressive in June.
It's cut down, yeah.
They had the least strikeouts.
Yeah.
In the majors.
That's not a fun team to go in and pitch against when, you know, like there's some bopper teams that, you know, you can get your punch outs and get out of some jams. But if they got the least, you're like, what am I supposed to do?
And that's if with Olsen still striking out, you know, most in the majors, although he's cut back a little bit lately too. Yeah. But the rest of them, the chase rates are down. I talked to Chipper about that because Chipper compared him to the Astros of a few years ago when the Astros really great teams. He said those teams hit for power and didn't strike out. He goes, that's a lethal combination. He said Braves teams like that. He goes, I might be biased, but I think they're better than that. Yeah. They're better than them at that.
Yeah. I've never seen an offense like this. Even like from afar.
He's leading the NL in stolen bases with 39. Slugging percentage, he's leading the leadoff batter, leading the league in slugging at 604. And leading in OPS at 1,011. So we've mentioned that before. The only two players who ever led the league in stolen bases and OPS led their league. Willie Mays did it twice, 57 and 58. Ricky Henderson did it in 1990. That is it. That's the only group that's done it.
Yeah, listening to the Marlins broadcast, their big, you know, stud pitchers on the mound, and he throws a fastball by Acuña first pitch, and they're like, see, this fastball, it's just different, you know. He doesn't realize how that ball is going to get, and then next pitch he turns on it down the line, home run, and they're just
what
like,
did they say?
They were just like, this guy's special. Yeah, I'm paraphrasing, but it was like they were on their own guys' balls and real excited about him and talking about he was different. And then the next fastball, Acuña catches up to it and rips it down the line for a homer, and they're like, well,
they've seen it enough. Wow. He's hit more homers against them than he has against anybody. He's got like 26 or 27 against them.
But they've been watching this dude pitch and was, you know, I mean, they've been seeing him blow everybody away and thinking, you know, nobody can hit this guy. And then, well, guess what?
Well, and that's what Charlie said. He goes, it's ridiculous. That guy, he's talking about Yuri Perez. He goes, he's hitting 99, 100. He's got a great fastball. He's been dominating everybody. And the Braves are going out there putting bats on every swing, putting the bat on the ball.
Yeah, that was when they did that to him was when I just was like, it's just kind of a shrug reaction. And I don't even have – because it's not like, you know, if they started off the game against a guy that's been having a good year, he's 93 with a good slider and makes pitches, and they hit him hard, it's like, yeah, they're doing what they're doing. But when they have a guy coming in with a 1-something ERA throwing 99 –
yeah,
and just shit on him like he's just an average Joe.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't have any explanation for what they're doing.
And he was throwing hard from the first pitch, too.
Yep.
Young kid. I mean, he walked off the field looking like, I don't know what the hell just happened, man. That's never happened before.
Yeah.
And it's like 95 degrees too. I mean, they just beat the hell out of him.
Yeah.
It was like, I never want to pitch here again.
Well, I mean, it's shocking too when you're on that kind of tear.
Yeah. You've just been
And
dominating everybody for a month, man.
you show up, you feel good. I guess I'm going to have another good start. I'm going to make my pitches again. Let's get this thing started. And
Yeah.
before the start even starts, you're already out of the game.
Let's see if what I can do against the best hitting team in the majors right now.
I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
Like now I proved myself.
My chance to do it on the big stage, get some attention.
Yep.
So Acuña and Olson ranked first and second in the NL qualifiers in OPS, 119, 1019 Acuña, 932 Olson. They're followed by Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts of the Dodgers. They're third and fourth now, 929 and 927. Olson passed Freddie with this homer binge that Olson's been on. But if you make I went to Fangraphs and I put in 200 plate appearances as a minimum instead of the qualifying standard, go 200 plate appearances. Because that, it's not really fair. It chops off Sean Murphy just because, Darno's been playing just a little enough that Sean Murphy doesn't qualify. But if you put in 200 plate appearances, the Braves have the top 3 in the NL in OPS among everyone who's at 200 or more plate appearances because Murphy's at 949. I mean, that's crazy, man. The top 3 in the league.
So I was thinking the other day, they need to lock Seitzer up. I don't know about how coaches' contracts get negotiated or what happens, but that guy could be like Kevin Long, where teams just offering him every offseason more money.
Him and Wash, because Wash is 70, but I don't care. I'd give them both 5-year contracts.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of you can't lose either of those guys, man. No. Sean Murphy's got 14 homers and a 949 OPS. Second best on the team, 200 or more PAs. He's voted to start his first year with the Braves. That's pretty. I think it says a lot about the Braves coaching staff that you've got 2 guys that were with the A's, a couple of years ago. Olson's been here 2 years now. He's on the All-Star team. Murphy in his first year over here as a catcher, which is the hardest position to switch leagues in, really, unless it's pitcher. But to learn your own pitchers, learn the other team's pitchers, all that, learn ball.
A lot to take on. Yeah.
And he's OPS in 949. And voted to start in the All-Star game in the first year over here.
He does not get cheated in the box.
Oh, my God. That swing on the home run the other day. I love watching that guy connect because it's such a hard swing, and he follows through and looks at it like, okay, my work is done. I'm going to trot around bases.
It's like he hits it so hard he doesn't even have to get the spin or angle right. He just overpowers it out of the park.
Crushes the ball. Crushes it. Yeah, he's fun to watch. Then we got, what was it looking at? Oh, the only major league qualifier ahead of the 2 Braves in OPS or slugging, because the Braves are also 1-2 in slugging with Acuña and Olson. The only guy in the majors ahead of them in qualifier, Shohei, and he's having a MVP year, obviously. He's OPS in 1,060 and slugging 670. I mean, I got to admit, man, I never thought it was possible. I did not think it was possible. And when he had the TJ surgery, I thought, okay, now it's over.
Now he's got to pick. Yeah.
He's got to decide.
Yeah.
He's got to decide. And I mean, the guy's going out and he's the best pitcher on their team, one of the best 3 or 4 pitchers in the league, and he's the best hitter, the best power hitter in baseball. It's ridiculous.
That ball he hit 493 the other day. I've never seen a ball go anywhere close to that, even in BP at that stadium. I hope he does a home run derby. I don't think he is.
God, he shouldn't. With all the work he's doing, he needs to take that time.
Yeah.
Did you see the one Josh Donaldson hit, by the way?
I
didn't know Josh still had it in him. He hit a 490 plus one.
Did he really? Yesterday?
A couple days ago. Look it up.
I've seen a compilation they got out there on YouTube of Josh bat flipping to the wall. It's like flies to the track and still bat.
Yeah.
But
no, I think he hit 490. I think that's what it was, unless I'm mistaken. Yeah, it was really long.
Look that up.
Yeah. So Olson passed Freddie with the OPS with his recent homer binge, and like we said last time, the strikeouts, the batting average. Well, you'll gladly take that when he's hitting for the power, the home runs and the RBIs that he's getting, and when he's doing what he's doing in the first inning,
Yeah.
He's been a big part of that first inning binge, even though they dropped him to 4th, 5th in the order. That's not going to change now. He's going to stay down there because he is just thriving down a little further down the order. I asked him about it, and he said, I said, is it just a coincidence? Your numbers have kind of taken off since you moved out of that second spot. Just coincidence more, or part of coincidence more than anything? And he said, yeah, I think it's just coincidence. But he goes, I don't mind where I'm hitting. 4th, 5th, fine with me. Because with everybody we got getting on base, when 7, 8, 9 are getting on base almost as much as 1, 2, and 3, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it turns Acuña into a 3-hole hitter. He just gets to lead off the game too. Same for Matt. But I was wondering if so for a lot of guys, it can be a distraction, but I was wondering if wanting to let Acuña steal a bag before you swing type of thing could have changed his at-bats. But if he said it didn't change anything, then obviously not.
Yeah. By the way, the Braves got 8 All-Stars on there. You could definitely have made a case for a couple of other guys. Jesse, before he got hurt, I think was really going to get consideration if he'd kept doing what he was doing. And do you know who led the Braves in OPS in June?
Ozuna.
In their historic month? Nope. You could make a case for Ozuna too with the May and June that he had. His OPS is up way over 800 now.
Well, there's always a few guys kind of pull out, so you get some subs. Right. They could wind up with 9.
You know who got the other one though, or who led the team in OPS in June?
No.
I'd give you 5 guesses, and I bet you would not get it.
I won't, because there's 10 guys that could have done it.
Eddie Rosario.
Yeah, he had a good month.
Eddie Rosario OPS'd 1,115 in June.
It was like the day that we were talking about his struggles, and like he's got to get it going.
Yeah.
It was like he hit 2 homers that night and never looked back.
Remember there was a local guy, a columnist, wrote that Rosario and Harris both should have been benched.
Yeah. And then they both went off.
And I was like, okay, I could see if you want to do Rosario, he's not doing it. So I have to admit, I said that about Rosario. But we both said, Harris, are you kidding me? Come on, man.
Let him figure it out. He's still playing great.
Because he was hitting the balls hard at the time, too. He wasn't striking out a bunch and all that.
Yeah, you could see him coming.
That was kind of predictable. You knew he was going to turn around. And like Chipper said on the Valley broadcast, because Harris had started doing a little bit, he goes, when Harris takes off, look out for this offense. And since he did, it's been like, because him down to that. Yeah, it is. They had 4 of the NL's top 11 home run hitters in June. 4. Olsen had 11. Acuña and Rosario had 9 apiece. Ozzie Albies had 7. They had 8 players with 5 or more homers in June. The Braves did.
I saw somebody posted a second ago a comment that said the Braves have more home runs in June than the Guardians have the whole season.
They did. Yeah, they've got like 150, and now it's like 160 homers, and the Guardians don't have 60.
Even won a game is pretty good. They've already locked that down.
And the Guardians are a pretty good team.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're averaging 2 a game basically.
And this isn't the crazy thing is that they were doing it in Cincinnati or Yankee Stadium or something where you can kind of discount the home runs a little bit, but Truist is pretty fair, isn't it?
Very fair. It's a fair park. I mean, their numbers are kind of skewing it because they're hitting so many there, but it's a fair park. Look at the visiting teams. They don't have big numbers there. They're just average. Yeah. By the way, they're on pace now to set the major league home run record. They're on pace for 308 home runs. The record is 307 by the Twins a few years ago.
Jeez.
So, in a juice ball year.
Yeah.
I thought big development during the week that kind of got overshadowed by the offensive blitzkrieg and all the All-Stars and everything, but I really was impressed with Soroka's start. That was pretty big. That was so much better than his previous 2. Getting a lot closer to the old Soroka. Still got a ways to go, but it was a lot closer. And he's throwing 96, topping at 96, and getting a little bit better movement. Asked him about it afterwards, and he said, you've kind of alluded to this before, and he talked about this when he was on the podcast. He had to get out just letting it fly. Just let it go. Just don't go out there and try to aim so much and try to worry so much about mixes. Just let it fly. And he said he just gets so much better results when he did that. And He had one inning the other day where he said, I started kind of getting away from that, and we got back into it, and he finished strong when he said, letting it fly. It's just
hung a few breaking balls, gave up a couple homers, whatever. The thing I liked the most was he was throwing that four-seamer. Mm-hmm. And he was exactly like what he said, letting it fly. He was letting it eat. You could see the follow-through on those four-seamers when he was just blowing guys away or locking them up on a fastball in.
Yeah.
There was some anger behind that. He was attacking. He wasn't trying to move it so much as just, here it is, let's hit it.
I asked him, by the way, he was asked about Acuña and what he's doing. And Soroka, it was funny. He goes, I laugh because he has always exceeded expectations, and the expectations were always very high. He goes, I remember showing up in Danville, and Austin Riley had already called up to Danville at that point, and Riley was raking. He goes, and then Ronald showed up shortly after that. And he said, 160-pound, 17-year-old. And I told the guys, and I got laughed at. I said, Ronald might actually have more power than Riley. He said, I got ridiculed, and come to find out a couple of years later, it's probably true. He said, Allard and I watched him hit a 3-1 changeup over the batter's eye in Mississippi. And that's when it was kind of like, all right, I know what this kid can probably do one day. He said, I think that's what he's doing now with the stolen bases is really important after his injuries as well. That's the most impressive thing to me, what he's doing right now. That's what Soroka said about him.
I mean, I remember hearing kind of just people talk about him, and saying, you got to see this guy. You got to see this guy. And it was like, I think it was TP saying Acuña, saying his name. And the only other guy I'd heard him say that about was Simmons, as far as Simmons' defense. He was just talking about Simmons' defense and saying, you guys got to see this guy play. He's on another level. And I remember kind of hearing Acuña's name in the same manner, but I could have never – I mean, you don't expect anybody to show up and be this good and live. And when you have this much hype, when people start saying your name, you have that good first year, sometimes guys peak right there. But we talked about it. He was still learning the game. He was so young. And now I think you're starting to see what he can do when he's got a plan. And he's starting to learn how people are going to attack him, how he's going to get pitched. With all that talent, learning the game is, I mean, that combos is dangerous.
And there's the it factor that you can't really quantify, and you can't really even explain exactly what you're talking about. But if you watch him, you know what we're talking about. Not only does he have like more talent than like anybody, but he doesn't just go out there and put his head down and go, I'm just doing my work. He goes out there with an arrogance about him, a cockiness about him that helps him be even better. But he doesn't try to downplay it or try to slip into the woodwork. He wants more attention on him. So he wears the yellow elbow guards and the yellow shoes and the bright. I mean, he wants the attention. The huge chain of the number 13 and all that. Come get me. Yep. And he's even better when people throw at him. He's just got that it factor. It's kind of like when Jordan came into the league. He wore his shorts different than the rest of the league. He wore bigger shorts at the time. The shorts were so big, he had his Carolina shorts underneath his Bulls shorts. But Jordan was skinny at the time too. But he didn't care if people were all aiming to stop him, the hot shot, and he had the Nike contract and all that. That's what Acuña to me has that rare era. Deion Sanders in football had all the stuff. He wore all the stuff that made him stand apart. Didn't care. Yep.
They're so good they can let you know.
And then
there's nothing you can do about it. I think I talked about this on a previous podcast, but I never did anything loud because it was hard. Like, it was so hard for me to compete. I never wanted that target on my back. I never wanted any extra tension. I didn't want to wake up the other team. I wanted to get in, do my job, and disappear. Acuña's like, come get me. Come see me. Come see what I got. And the more attention that's on him, the bigger the situation is, the louder the stadium is. There's not an amount of pressure that makes him feel like he's not the best player on the field, and he's gonna succeed in that moment.
Yeah, he does. He has not shrunk. I mean, he didn't get to play in the World Series run, and that sucks because I really would have liked to have seen him on that stage. The fact that they won it without him is just, I mean, when you look back at it, you go, how did that happen? But he didn't get to play in that because Eddie Rosario acted like Acuña in that whole postseason. But Acuña, remember, hit that grand slam though the year before in the postseason against the Dodgers at home. And that was the loudest the stadium had been until maybe a couple of moments this year. But I mean, he stepped up when he had a chance. He stepped up. It's a grand slam. So I just can't wait to see it this year because, I mean, as long as they can stay healthy, they should get Fried back by August, and they need that third guy, I think, to go with Elder and Strider, the top three to go in, because then you got Charlie can be your fourth for the postseason when you need for a longer series, and Kyle Wright is trying to come back too. They expect him back too in September, so it's going to be nice if you get all those guys, but if you just get a third to go with, keep Elder and Strider healthy, if you get Fried back, I think it's just a matter of staying healthy, because I think their offense is too good to stop in a series. I really do. I think they're just this is so much better offense than even last year when the bats kind of went, Philly was on a roll. The Braves had a couple of injured pitchers. Phillies jumped out in some leads, and the Braves didn't do much. But this, to me, is such a better team. The offense is just exponentially better.
It's ridiculous.
I just don't see another team that can hang with them. I mean, at least till you get to the World Series. And if the Rays are playing great, like they were earlier in the year, that could be a great matchup. But I don't see anybody stopping the Braves in the National League unless they have injuries,
Well, especially with Fried back, because it's just like Soroka, or anytime a player gets hurt and the rest of the team's kind of thriving, it's really easy to forget how damn good Max Fried is.
Exactly.
But he's an ace. They're doing this without an ace that's on their roster.
Right, because he's the only guy that consistently goes 7 or 8 innings.
Yeah. It competes every time. I mean, he could dominate a game, and it's also, having the lefty. Throwing 3 righties at a team is one thing, but you throw a dominant lefty and put him in the middle of 2 righties, or however you want to stack it up.
And think of those 3 different looks you'd be giving people in a series too.
Yeah.
Totally different looks. Elder, Strider, and Fried.
You got a turbo sinker, you got an invisible, and you got a Kershaw curveball that throws 96
from a lefty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got the laser of a fastball from one guy throwing, 98 to 100. Slider guy throwing 88 to 90, and then you got Fried.
It's 3 totally different looks.
And then you got
Charlie,
Charlie's your guy. If he's your fourth, totally different look.
You got crazy spin.
So just last thing before we wrap it up, I asked Snit about, because Acuña is not going to play it's not going to be in the home run derby, and he also said he's not going to be in the home run derby in Venezuela this winter. He said I might do it in the future, but I'm gonna let others do it this year. I think there's some other players that got an opportunity. To me, I think it's one of the most mature decisions, the best decisions he has made, because the last thing you want to do right now is disrupt what you're doing. You're having a historic season.
Yeah.
You don't know if you're ever going to be this healthy and this locked in, because it's not just routine to go 40, 75. Nobody's ever done it.
No.
You might be the only guy to ever do it unless you do it again. So why would you disrupt that by taking 60 huge swings in a home run derby that's meaningless? It's fun to watch, but that's where you could get injured doing those. I know a lot of people don't get hurt, but a lot of people
just jack up your swing.
Yeah, but even a slight twinge, an oblique or something, you just don't want that.
Well, playing every day, that 4 days off is like, it's such a season changer to just get a breath. Just take one chance to breathe and recover. And he's playing every day, and he's playing every day, and he's going to be in a starting lineup for the All-Star game. So I think it was a really great decision. And I asked Snit about it. I don't know if Snit would have any feelings one way or another, because the Braves didn't tell him not to do it. They leave it up to him to do it. And I asked Snit about it. He said, I think that's all part of maturity and looking at the big picture and what is ahead of him. I think his goal is to play every game that we play this year, quite honestly. And kudos to him for being aware of that. He goes, it's awesome. He'll play in the All-Star game for the 4th time. That's awesome in itself. For me, I would never take that away from anybody, the home run derby. But if he doesn't want to do it, it just shows the maturation process of the player and the person. Yeah. And, not to mention this format now is 10 times more exhausting than it used to be. Crazy. I mean, I've been watching old home run derbies. I'm taking my son. Yeah. And they used to last like 2.5, 3 hours because guys are waiting for a pitch, catching their breath. Now it's you swing at everything. Yeah. I mean, you're going a minute or 2 minutes, whatever it is, and taking 60 swings. Yeah. It's too much, I think. But yeah, it's fun to watch. But I mean, it makes it more fun to watch that way. But I don't know if it's more fun to watch because you don't even get to see how far the ball goes. The next one's that's true. They're already hitting the next one. Yeah. Kind of like for me, it's almost overwhelming. Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody. We appreciate you watching. And this team, there's no shortage of stuff to talk about. They go to Cleveland for 3. Then I'm going to be in Tampa for the last 3 of the first half for the All-Star break. And the Braves just need to keep doing what they're doing and stay healthy.
7:55 is real. We are out.